All right, let's dive into something that, well, it feels really personal, right? And it's something that almost everyone gets wrong. I'm talking about the psychology behind a quiet birthday.
Oh, you know the question. You can feel it coming a mile away, can't you? Someone leans in, all smiles, totally expecting you to tell them about some huge party or grand celebration, and then you drop the bomb. The one-word answer that just seems to short-circuit their brain. Nothing. And boom, suddenly you're the odd one out. They're looking at you with pity, thinking you must be sad or lonely or something's just wrong.
But here's the thing. What if that's not it at all? What if your nothing isn't a problem, but actually a really complex, maybe even healthy psychological response? Yeah, we're going to get into the science of why some of us treat our birthday just like any other Tuesday. Okay, so let's start with our first profile. And, this one goes pretty deep. This is for the folks who didn't just decide to stop celebrating. They kind of learned that they had to.
So, way back in 1967, this psychologist, Martin Seligman, he stumbled upon this really powerful idea he called learned helplessness. And it's basically this. When you go through the same bad situation over and over, and you can't do anything about it, your brain does something kind of incredible. In a move of pure efficiency, it just stops trying. It literally learns that hoping is a waste of good energy.
And you know what? A birthday can be the absolute perfect storm for this. Think about it. It works like this. You build up this expectation for your big day. But then, year after year, reality just doesn't match up. It's a letdown. And your brain, which is basically a prediction machine, eventually just goes, you know what? I'm not going to predict a reward anymore. That hope you had, it slowly hardens into what, from the outside, just looks like you don't care. The neuroscience behind this is actually wild. See, researchers like Schultz, Diane, and Montague found that our dopamine system, the feel-good chemical, it doesn't just go off when we get a reward. It goes off in anticipation of one. So when a birthday keeps failing to deliver, it creates this thing called a prediction error. The reward you expected, it doesn't show up. So the brain just stops releasing the dopamine. It literally rewires itself to not get its hopes up. So here's the big takeaway for this group. When someone tells you, oh, it's just another day, listen, really listen. That sentence, it wasn't born from apathy. It was built piece by painful piece from scar tissue. It's not that they're cold, it's that they're wearing armor. Okay, but it's not always about past hurt, right? Not everyone is carrying those kinds of scars. There's a whole other group of people who are just, well, they're completely overwhelmed. There's a term for this, time blindness. And no, it's not some kind of disorder. It's more like a side effect of our crazy modern lives. I mean, when you're just so deep in the trenches with work, family, and a million deadlines, specific dates on a calendar, they just kind of blur together. I love this metaphor. It's like your brain is a web browser with like 17 tabs open at once, and they're all blinking and demanding your attention. So your birthday tab, it's not that you don't care about it. It's just that your brain's operating system has automatically filed it under not urgent. It's probably sitting right next to that tab for schedule a dentist appointment that you've been ignoring for 6 months. All right, that brings us to our third group. Now, these are the folks who aren't carrying old scars, and they're not necessarily overwhelmed. Nope, they have consciously, and very calmly, just opted out. This all boils down to a fascinating psychological idea called the hedonic treadmill from Philip Brickman. Picture this. It's that endless chase for the next big thing that's going to make you happy. A party, a new car, a promotion. Sure, you get that little hit of joy, but it never lasts, does it? You always end up right back where you started, looking for the next fix. Well, this group, they've gotten off the treadmill. They're operating from something called self-determination theory, which basically says that real, lasting happiness comes from inside you, not from outside events. They haven't lost the ability to celebrate. They've just stopped outsourcing their joy to one specific day on the calendar. They've mastered the art of feeling whole on, a completely random Tuesday. But where does a mindset like this even come from? Well, a lot of the time, it starts really young. Let's paint a picture. Go back in time. Imagine you're 8 years old. Your birthday's coming up, and you are just counting down the seconds. You've got it all pictured in your head, right? The balloons, the cake with your name on it, all your friends showing up just for you. That feeling of anticipation, it's absolutely electric. And then the day actually arrives, and it's quiet. Too quiet. Maybe a few people forgot.
Maybe the party just felt smaller than the one you dreamed up. The reality just didn't live up to the blockbuster movie you had playing in your head. And that feeling, that quiet, sinking disappointment, man, that's a powerful teacher. And that little story brings us to a really, really important question, a crucial distinction, actually, because not everyone who says nothing for their birthday is doing it from the same place. You really have to ask yourself, is your quiet birthday a choice made from freedom, or is it a defense built out of fear? Okay, let's look at this side by side. On one hand, you've got genuine freedom. This is that self-determination theory we mentioned. This person just doesn't need a party to feel whole. But on the other hand, you've got protective fear. A psychologist named Jennifer Crocker talks about this as contingencies of self-worth. This is when your self-esteem is all tied up in what other people do or what happens to you. This person avoids the party because they're terrified that if it's not perfect, it'll just prove their deepest fears about themselves are true. See the difference? One is strength, the other is self-protection. So, where does all of this leave us? Well, it kind of forces us to completely rethink what a celebration even means. Maybe, just maybe, the size of the party was never the right measuring stick for a person's worth. And this, I think, really gets to the heart of everything we've been talking about. What if the truest form of self-love isn't throwing yourself a massive party? What if it's actually found in the quiet, solid confidence of not needing one at all? So if you're listening to this and you're someone who actually feels a deep sense of peace on a quiet birthday, I want you to know you're not alone. You're not broken. You're not weird. You just belong to a quiet tribe of people who get it. People who understand that feeling whole comes from the inside, not from a specific date on the calendar. Let's leave it with this final thought. For years, maybe society has made you feel like something was wrong with you, that something was missing. But what if the exact opposite is true? What if your nothing plan isn't a sign that you're broken, but the ultimate sign that you're already complete?